Good morning, everyone. We're just going to start with our introduction. Good morning, Rajib. Welcome to 100 Days and Beyond. Welcome to our audience and welcome to everyone joining us this morning. I just want to turn the music down a bit so that we can kickstart and start our show. Morning, Rajib. Can you hear me well? Everything good on the sound check and that?
Yeah, Dudley, all well here. Thank you, and good morning to you in London too. I am dialing in from Brussels. So thank you for providing me this opportunity to connect with you and your audience. So I appreciate the time of you and the audience who have joined in this 100 Days and Beyond conversation relating to carve out and the experience of going through a carve out for private equity funds and their portfolio companies.
Yeah, thank you, Rajib. Yes, and it's going to be a magnificent show, and I'd like to introduce you quickly to the audience. 100 Days and Beyond is the podcast that we focus on the M&A professionals, the M&A practitioners, especially on the integration side of things. I would say the unsung heroes of the guys that do the hard graft, the hard work behind the scenes to make things happen. And Rajib, I'm going to quickly go through some of the points on your LinkedIn profile, because I think the audience need to know who you are. And I think it's very, very impressive. And especially when we talk about some of the things around your profile, speaking about the carve-outs, I think is critical. And for me, carve-outs are one of those, it's almost like the ninja side of things. I mean, it's that special group of people that understand that additional level of integration and the special skills around carve-outs. But you're going to tell us more about that. I'm not going to tell the audience about that. Let me quickly go through Rajib Arjun. So, partner and chief operating officer at LTS Strategic Consulting. Rajib is an accomplished operation and technology executive with more than 20 years of success stories. And now I'm going to go through the list because it's quite a broad range. Rajib, you've got technology, telecoms, communications, private equity, and even manufacturing. And one of the key manufacturing entities, a lot of people actually know, one of the big names, leveraging extensive experience in enabling growth and executing EBITDA value capture. And that's one of the main things that we drive as integration practitioners and as integration specialists. And that's often the purpose of the entire M&A process, is the value creation, adding to the top line, but also adding to the bottom line, but also expanding the business across territories, across products, bringing in new talent, etc. You are a valuable asset for private equities. Now, this is where it starts getting really interesting. Startups aspiring to reposition business platforms, acquire or integrate an entity, or spin off into a new company. Sorry. His broad areas of expertise include mergers and acquisitions, complex carve-outs, which is something we really need to speak about today, cost optimization, business growth, transformation, technology-enabled business processes, and emerging markets. So you haven't just worked in sort of first world countries. We're looking at emerging market countries too, and they have a different dynamic. I mean, you have a different levels of complexity and so on. And I'd love to you touch on a few of those, just to go into some of the companies and some of your accomplishments throughout your career. You've held leadership positions at various private equity funds and their portfolios, including companies like PricewaterhouseCoopers. And for me, the Tata Group is actually a very interesting addition to your CV. He has seen a tremendous amount of success over the course of his career and has served as a key contributor to the achievements of organizations he's worked for. Now, this is what's very interesting for me. He was responsible for 60% growth of Tata over the course of 3 years, resulting in $150 million portfolio of business. I mean, that's significant. That is huge. And then additionally, he has introduced new products to market for both Tata and for PwC, all of which have been valued at more than $1 billion. That's significant growth. So Rajib continues to create working relationships with C-suite executives and successfully led complex multi-year client engagements in private equity, VC, high-tech, telecoms, manufacture, retail, healthcare, and international trade. That is a brilliant CV. Rajib, just tell us a little bit about your journey and you know, one doesn't just get up one morning and do things like this. There's obviously a starting point somewhere. Tell us how you got into this and you know, where did it all begin?
Yeah, so thanks, Dudley. I think you know what LinkedIn resume you are reading is a cumulative experience of being able to bring the right folks to the table, always, right? And again, today, I think I have one of my valued colleagues, Harrison Tull, also joining me. So it's been able to bring the right set of people like Harrisons of the world who worked with me through the course of my career, and being able to create that value proposition for our clients and be laser focused in the objectives or the end goals that our clients have, and being able to deliver them on a timely and in a manner that makes it impactful for them to achieve their objectives. Whether it's a merger or acquisition, it's a cost optimization, it's a zero-based redesign, or whatever may be the objective. It is to bring the right set of people, get the right team, challenge each other, and be able to deliver the value that our clients are seeking from a transaction or from an effort or from an from an initiative that may lead them to the next level of growth or profitability. So that's in essence what we try to bring to the table. And in the past 3 years, after Big Four experience, having moved and started Altius Strategic Consulting, we've been fortunate to have worked with 6 private equity funds and several portfolio companies, and the cumulative experience of about 25 plus engagements, all in the M&A and ops space, is what we now are codifying into what we call the ACE methodology, or the Altius carve-out experience methodology, and bringing that to the fore based on the cumulative experience at Altius and the prior lives, which is a combination of a couple of things, right? I would say operations, technology, ability to understand the complexity of the M&A, mergers and acquisition space, zero-based thinking and design, and more importantly, being able to deliver that at a velocity which is meaningful and tangible to the EBITDA impact of of the transaction that our clients are seeking to achieve.
Yes, and yeah, thank you for that. And I think part of your profile also speaks about that EBITDA value capture. But when I look at your website, one of the word that keeps coming up is velocity, velocity, velocity. So it's all about speed. It's all about, I'm sure, accuracy, and then being able to put through the deliverables, especially on the carve out. I really like that. I would say niching yourself down and focusing, although you've got such a broad experience, but being able to focus on a particular part, or let's call it a skill set, and build a team around you. I think you're absolutely right. It's often about teams. It's not, you don't do this alone. These are big projects, and you're absolutely right. But let's just go back. What was Rajib like as a young boy? At school, thinking, what are you going to do one day, and how did you end up in this space? Let's go back a few more steps into your journey, and from studying through to how did you get your first sort of job, or gig as people call it. Let's just touch on that, and then we can go into some more of the other elements.
Sure. I think that's an interesting.
Oops, looks like we've lost Rajib just briefly. I'm sure he'll be back shortly. Just please hold the line. I just while Rajib is sort of dialing in or logging back in. There we go. For me, one of the key things for someone like Rajib, I'm just quickly sharing something. Is the balance that you have, and I mean, I didn't know how long you're going to take before you come back online, but I mean, you got cricket, you got YMCA on your CV, you've got such a broad spectrum of things. Rotary Districts President on list of honorees. I mean, for me, it's such a great sort of balanced portfolio as opposed to just the work side. That's what I'm really keen to say. Okay, let's just go back, if it's okay with you. Just tell us, you don't have to go into too much detail, but just tell us a bit about the journey, especially for the youngsters out there. I mean, people out there saying, what career do I do? If I look at some of my children, they're in their early 20s, and they're saying, okay, what do I do? What's a career that's interesting enough for me to be challenged, enough for me to be able to go, and what's got runway? Because these days when they select careers, often careers don't, jobs that exist today didn't exist 10, 15, 20 years ago. And I'm sure it's going to be the same in 20 years time. And there seems to be something very special about the integration space, but also about people like yourself that have built a career out of something that is very movable and flexible. Anyway, over to you, Rajib. Tell us a bit about your background.
So I think let me try to answer your question regarding future-proofing careers, right? I think irrespective of any field that you choose, and you're likely to have multiple fields that you choose over your 30, 40 years career span, right? Well, first thing you need to bring is the love and passion to be involved in something that you really care for and really want to do. The second aspect, I think, from a technical perspective, the new world is going to be driven by STEM, and of which I think the software element, knowing computers, playing with computers, dealing with software, and how software is going to transform, is going to become a fundamental rudimentary skill that everybody needs to have, irrespective of whether you're a musician, you're an artist, or you're an engineer, or you're a rocket scientist, right? That software element is going to be key. The third dimension of this, in my view, is to have sports in your life, right? The sports teaches you not just individual contribution, team contribution, to give, right, to share, to accommodate, to celebrate, to cry with each other in times of difficult. So that builds character. So there is technical skill, there is passion, and there is character that you bring, and you mesh that together. Then you are likely to see success. That's the soft aspect of meshing the hard and the soft aspect, and bringing that all together, and then couple that with passion. That's going to likely to drive success. I mean, I've seen people that are successful. They may not have all the technical know-how, may not have all the software or hardware skills that are required in order to be successful. But when they bring the passion to the job, it's like you're there 90%. And it's just smoothing the edges that gets you to be a high performer, right? So that's where we really look. In generally, when we in our organization interview people to bring them in, and we catch them very young, one of the key areas that we look is how much sports and what is the type of sports they're played, individual sports, team sports, at what level, what does a failure look like, how did they come out of that, when they have done something well in some place, what did they teach them, how did they stay grounded before they took to the next level. So that's what we're really looking for, and we try to encourage people with those backgrounds to come work with us at any point of time, right? So that's I would say is the foundation or the bedrock of trying to build success, right? And if I reflect back to my life, I think there were two aspects that played pretty well with me. One is my passion for cricket, right? I used to play a lot of cricket back in India during my formative years. I still one of my key part of my network across the world has been my friends that I played cricket through my school life and beyond. The second, I think, because of cricket, today I meet a lot of people around the world, in England, in India, in Australia, in the US, that give me not just a diversion from the rough and tough world of M&A, but also allows me to maintain that equitable balance of health and work so that you can maintain sanity, right? The third angle, which I think played a huge contribution, was my love for numbers, right? The world of finance and engineering, when they bring together, the common factor that drives these two is really numbers. And we call ourselves spreadsheet jocks and PowerPoint donkeys, but that's really, the spreadsheet jocks is look at numbers, understanding the art and science behind the numbers, and then drive decisions, drive actions, drive the team to go deliver those. Has been a purely fascinating journey that I've played in my career. So I would say those are the common points, right? Whether we did shared service, we did outsourcing, we did technology optimization, zero-based budgeting, or we do M&A today. These are some of the common themes that have gone through my career and given me a lot of opportunity to learn and bring it back and shape young minds and careers, and be able to deliver this as a cumulative effort in the organization.
Excellent. So I mean, you've got, when you bring people into your organization, you've got a let's call it it's I would say a culture you build of people that come from competitive sporting environments, potentially people that show the passion, and obviously they've got to show love and the ability to maintain high pace and so on. So I really like that as a philosophy. And coming back to your big keyword you've got on your website, which is the velocity. In order to maintain or achieve velocity, you need a really strong team around you, and you've obviously built that with Altius. If we could just sort of go into some of the different types of M&A work that you've done, and if we look at maybe just for those that are not so familiar with this world of integration and M&A and so on, Maybe just give us your definitions of the differences between sort of standard integration work as opposed to separations, as opposed to carve-outs, and maybe just one or two examples around some of those that you've experienced.
Yeah, sure. Done. So let me touch a little bit, because twice you brought up the word velocity, right? Let me put the the thinking behind the word velocity. Velocity, as people know, it's a vector quantity. It has two aspects, right? It has direction and it has magnitude. Now, why is it important to our business, right? The direction comes from being lethally focused to a client issue or a problem at hand, and then doing it in the shortest possible time and in the manner that drives the highest impact. So that's the magnitude, if I were to turn this into a physics and a maths metaphor, right? So that's important, the focus and the ability to keep the client's interest at heart while delivering the solution is what we mean by velocity. So to us, it transforms in day to day, meaning when we look at a client problem, we put the best team, right, irrespective of the jersey that they are wearing. We try to bring the best people to the ground, whether they're my friends or they're not our friends, it doesn't matter. We try to bring the best team. Second, we try to ensure that the client's interests are put in the forefront, or we put ourselves in our client's shoes before we think what's right for us. The third aspect is we try to deliver that at breakneck speed, right, to ensure that we are not wasting time or the valuable dollars of the client, or diluting, in the M&A world, what we call diluting the investment thesis in any manner. So these are the aspects that play on the word velocity that has become the credo based on which Altius Strategic Consulting has been founded, is operating, and will continue to build on our offerings, on our people, and our methods of engaging with our clients to solve complex problems that they encounter. So that's the reason you constantly see the word velocity on our website, and we try to drive velocity in the manner as an operating principle within the company. I mean, every step of the way, my partners are challenging the team. Why does it take 6 days to do this? Why cannot it be done in 3? And is there a risk in doing this in 3? If not, we should deliver this in 2.5 and 3 days, right? And when we bring partners to the table, we push them in that direction, right? Why would it take, as I think in one of the conversations we talked, the consulting world loves even numbers, the 4, the 6, and the 8 weeks. Everything seems to be rounded off in those, right? So we have tried to change that, and now we say we'll do things in 2.5, 3.5, 4.5. The sooner the better. We do not have to round them in even numbers just because everybody else is doing that.
Yeah, it's a bit like starting appointments at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock. Why don't you start the appointment or a meeting at 9 minutes past 10?
No, 7:25 a.m. in the morning.
Yes. I want to touch on something where one of your honors awards, you talk about program advisor, big data, and so on, and the impact of big data, and how that I think there's pros and cons to big data, and that's my impression. It depends on how well you handle big data and how well you handle data within an organization, especially in the technologies context. Your philosophy is velocity, but you have sometimes this huge amount of data that an organization, especially carve-outs, if we start looking at carve-outs, because when we start looking at the differences between integration, we look at separation, and we look at carve-outs. Each have the technology element, but many of them have a data element to it. And many of those data elements and big data, the way that it works is you also have to have data migration and data ownership and data protection in terms of security. And there's a whole range of things around data. And tell us a little bit about how and if velocity does potentially sometimes speed things up, because you can use your mantra of velocity. With big data, you could obviously crunch bigger numbers, because like you said, you're a spreadsheet jockey. You can crunch bigger numbers, you get better reports, but you could also have bad or poor data. And when you're looking at trying to sort that out, I mean, sometimes those things do take time. So just tell me a little bit about that. Again, the integration, separation, carve outs. And I mean, I know you focus a lot on the carve outs, and I want you just to share sort of your philosophy and that around big data and sort of those three areas.
Yeah. So let's get grounded by when we talk about integration, separation, and carve out, how these three differ, right? More so between integration and divestitures, right? Integration is about bringing two companies or two parts of a company together and forming a single operating entity. Whereas divestitures could be a company separating a full part or a partial part of an organization. If they separate the entire part of an organization, it's called a separation. But if they separate only a partial part, a business unit or a couple of business units or a couple of business units within a given geography, then that's called a carve out. Typically, in our experience of the 20 plus years that we have been doing this, right, we feel divestiture as a subject is very complex compared to the integration. Integration tends to be more a program management aspect of bringing the two organizations together. Whereas in the case of a divestiture, especially when you're carving out, you actually have a very clean slate. You almost have a blank sheet of paper, and you have the opportunity of shaping the destiny of an organization at rocket speed to be able to deliver the investment hypothesis that went behind building or setting up that carve out. So we consider carve outs in the continuum of the M&A to be one of the most complex activities that an organization, or in our case, a private equity fund, undertakes. And in order to help the private equities deliver or realize the investment thesis, we have codified the science and art of doing this into a set of, I would say, technology-enabled management consulting practice by branded as ACE. And ACE stands for Altius Carve-Out Experience that we bring to the table. And we've been doing this now as an independent entity for the last 3 years. I have seen significant success and value that our sponsors, financial sponsors, have been able to realize. So I want to make sure everybody is grounded when we talk of carve-outs. What are we referring to? What is the piece of work or the segment of work that we are going? And then we can lay out how do we go after. Data and technology play a significant role. And their work as an advisor, program advisor that I'm doing with the University of California schools is to help embed that know-how within their undergrad and master's programs in computer science, so that students coming out come up with those skills and are readily deployable to apply them in real world situations and become valuable assets to contribute to the type of work we are trying to build out. We are taking a step shift in the way a management consulting experience for M&A is delivered compared to traditional shops that have been doing this historically for years.
Yeah, so tell us a bit about that differentiator. So because I think that for me, when we had a conversation last week, that for me was a sort of a standout point. It was because there's something really different and special that you bring. Your focus specifically on probably the most complex challenge within this space, being the carve out. And then also, I mean, obviously your attitude and your passion towards it. But if you had to go up against, let's say, a generalist or other entities that also say they can do this particular thing, what would your differentiator be in terms of Altius and you and your team and so on?
Yeah. So at the very instance, right, when we get engaged with this, and the funds that we get engaged with this, and the work that we have done with the funds are the top tier funds and the mid market funds. So it has got legs. It is proven beyond doubt that it works. So hence we are now being able to talk about it more in public forums, right? So with that as the setting, what we have done, let me first take what that offering looks like. Second, I'll talk about what the people aspect of this is. Third is the technology aspect. Now you bring those three together to deliver the entire experience of a carve out to our clients. Couple that with the key operating word with velocity, right? If you're able to deliver this within the 100 days or before, that's a value. It's not on 101 day, it's not on the 99th day, it's delivered on the 100 day, the value that the client is expecting, right? So let's talk first about what does this offering consist of, right? There's six components in this that come together, right? First is alignment with the investment thesis or the strategy piece of it, really understanding why is the fund investing and what is the investment thesis based on which the investment was done or this carve out is being undertaken. That's where a lot of the data crunching, internal and external data and business models and analytics, including AI tools, come into play. The second component of this is understanding the separation strategy or the integration strategy and the reporting strategy. So what we have done as part of that is try to understand what components need of the business need to be stood up separately, right? Do you need IT? Do you need sales and operation? Do you need R&D? Or can you leverage some of the existing assets that are maybe coming over as part of the sale purchase agreement to you? And do you need all of that? Or can you integrate some of that, discard the rest, and then go from there? The third element within that, where a technology or a pre-built configurator is coming into play, and it comes into every transaction that we do, is what is the fund looking from a day-to-day reporting, right from the day of the transaction being closed till the time they will hold the asset in the portfolio. How to extract that information out of the existing systems, whether they're legacy, they are new generation systems, and how can that all be packaged day one, not custom built, right? You have pre-packaged adapters built that can be deployed, suck the data, massage the data, and render the data in the manner in which it is relevant to the private equity fund. The third component of this is target operating model, right? The target operating model says, and we are very big practitioners of what we call the asset light mode of operations. The lesser the number of headcounts that we can build in-house or we can automate and eliminate, we take that as the go-in position. But from an M&A angle, what we think about, what is required on day zero, what is required on day one, and what is required in day two, and lay the foundation with a pre-built point of view and time-tested point of view that we can bring to the table right away, including pre-validated service providers that are able to deliver that and have an understanding of the M&A context to be able to bring to the table right away. The fourth aspect that we bring in, and which a lot of companies are today underestimating, is relationships with software, hardware, and system integrators that can hit the ground running. For example, Altius has built relationships with Big 10 software providers. So we exactly know each of the software providers. We have a global contract or a regional contract, depending on their structure. Then we have pre-validated terms and conditions that they would want, and price points that they would offer depending on the deal size, the discount structures that they have, the types of contracts they would want to do. They would do regional contracts or they would do global contracts. How would they? What would be the lead time for them to process in software, whether it's entitlement subscriptions or in terms of hardware? how that entire process, say, if somebody has to order 6,000 laptops, what is the, their ability to service, what is the lead time? So we bring these tools day one into the conversation so that our clients do not need to do the legwork post the announcement. So it's an extremely significant differentiator because it cuts down for our clients as much as 6 months of lead time to get these sorted. And I can challenge this and in a very humble manner. A lot of consulting companies talk that, but nobody has gone to the extent that we have laid or codified this and are bringing to the table. The fifth element of this is the sourcing element, our ability to work with system integrators or hardware or software vendors to quickly turn the solution into effective contractual mechanisms without a long lead time. Because we have worked with several of these SIs, software or hardware vendors, we pretty much know what is doable and what can be achieved. And we go to the market with a 90-day guarantee of assuring our clients that a executed contract will be delivered on those. So these are the 5 key components, and wrapping this up, 5 key components is a program management service offering that wraps it. So we bring program managers into the fore who tick and tie and deliver this as a holistic end-to-end experience, whether day 0, day 1, or day 2 in the M&A context, right? So that's the ACE experience. Now, so that's fundamentally the offering that we are bringing to the table that assures, I can almost tell you, it assures our client that they do not need to postpone the 100-day plan, etc., which many of our clients have to do because a lot of these moving parts, they're unable to bring them all together in order to complete a car in a given finite period of time. By bringing this offering, we almost guarantee that you will hit the 100-day mark, except unless you run into real legal or regulatory issues, right? And that's one place we are looking to partner, the legal entity formation, etc. But Altius today does not bring that to the table. Now, next, let me try to talk about the people aspect of it, right? In order to deliver on this experience and deliver it with the credo of the velocity credo, right? We have built teams with 3 distinctive experience. The first is people with deep consulting experience, whether it's MBB or the Big Four. That's one set of experience that we bring in. The second vertex of the triangle of the resource base that we have built are people with deep industry or functional expertise, people with finance experience or HR experience, or procurement experience, somebody with pharmaceutical industry experience or chemical industry experience. That's something that we bring. That's the second leg of the tool. The third are project program managers who have done large-scale transformation in the pre-digital world or in the digital world, of bringing this all together and holistically being able to manage this with client and client stakeholders. And the stakeholders here are varied in our case because we're dealing with the private equity, the investment side, the operation side, then we're dealing with the management of the portco. In significant number of cases, we even take in interim positions to play the role of the management on behalf of the PE to deliver that experience. So these are the 3 vertices of the triangle from a talent perspective that we bring in to so-called create that perfect storm to be able to deliver the right value to our client, all keeping in mind that we need to ensure that it is done with the right impact and in the speed at which it drives value for our clients. So that's the second aspect to it. The third aspect is the differentiating aspect. Each of these 6 components that go into the experience, we have identified and built intellectual property that allows us to automate or productize these elements that can be delivered to the client in a manner, in a software consumable manner. So if you think about the reporting piece, in our what we have done is we built pre-built configurators that can tap into various sources of data, extract that data, massage the data, get it into the right format, and then render it in the manner, in the end stage, in the way our clients are looking. Or for example, take the case of contracting, right? We have componentized the entire master services agreement and statements of work, that one can say, okay, this is a business services portfolio company. They are trying to buy HR services. They're going to a tier one vendor. If you plug in these three metadata, it is likely that 80% of a generic contract on a SOW is spun out using technology and does not require you to write that. That gives us the competitive advantage of speed, to bring in the speed, and then the remaining last mile is what we discuss with our clients in order to get them the right custom value that they're seeking, in order for them to be able to ensure that their interests are protected. So that those are the components that we have built intellectual property. And we have taken a very different route of building this intellectual property. Unfortunately, right now it's not public, but at some point we'll make that public, in how to bring that element to our clients. So these are the three aspects, right? The offering, the people, and the technology-led management consulting that we're bringing to the table, that helps us deliver on our credo of velocity to our PE stakeholders, who are essentially whom we serve in an M&A context.
Yeah, so I mean that's absolutely amazing. And if I think about, and if I maybe just try and repeat it in my own words, it appears to me that you've put together a coherent system or process, or let's call it a package, made up of various component parts that are incredibly difficult for a private equity or one of your clients to do, because this is something that you do and you focused in your, I would say, many years of probably hard work and labor to put this together. It makes it easy because you're solving a massive problem. You're solving bigger problems in terms of the problems that your clients that you engage, especially private equity. Private equity generally are very good at the front end, looking for good deals. They're good at the target, the acquisition, the due diligence, etc. And they obviously start with a premise and a strategy that they're trying to fulfill. But in order to make that a reality, what they really need is someone that can do a lot of this for them, that they don't have to go and pull pieces together to bring a team in for a specific acquisition. And when you look at some of the acquisitions, some of them are platforms, some of them are bolt-ons, some of them are, and so on. So depending on whatever their philosophy is, and if you're looking at a carve-outs, which again is your speciality, which is probably the most difficult part, you've managed to systemize, you've managed to pull the right kind of people together. And what was also very interesting for me is your ability to bring people from outside your organization to work together with you in as if they are part of your solution and your organization. And you obviously partnered with a bunch of really good people. You've got a good network of people that you've brought together. And what that does is it allows you to deliver quickly with your velocity mantra. But is that a correct assumption? Is that it's that ability to bring things together and then to deliver on where the big problems lie for your client?
Yeah, Dudley, you're spot on, right? But let me make an overarching statement. The historical context of delivering consulting using linear solutions is dead. We are in an era of nonlinear solutions, which mean non-labor centric solutions, which is not putting butts in the seat, but delivering outcomes in a finite time. That's the era. And in order to do that and do that profitably and in an economically viable manner, technology is going to play the key role. If you are able to harness that and bring that experience to your client, who may or may not have the time and the know-how to put all this together. That's a significant step change of the experience that they're going in order to extract deal value from a complex M&A transaction. M&A transactions are one of the most complex endeavor an organization undertakes, especially in the current economic climate where investor value is of paramount importance. No private equity fund or corporate would want value leakage to happen. So, non-linear solutions enabled by technology is the way to go to get that done in the shortest possible time, keeping the risk aspects in mind so that you do not dilute the investment thesis based on which investor money has been gathered.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. And the difficulty for people that are not in the technology space is that there's a proliferation of technology solutions of tech. There's software coming out. I mean, the amount of people developing everything that you can think of under the sun, and even things you can't even think of. I would just imagine as a let's call it a private equity professional, a practitioner, saying, where do I start? What do I select? And sometimes they would default potentially to something they've used in the past, but hasn't quite worked. But because they know it, it's like, yeah, okay, well, we might as well. We know it's not it's not 100% fit. It's maybe an 80, 70% fit, but at least we know them. What you bringing to the party is you saying, no, we can give you the 100% fit using technology, but we can also do that at speed, and not just in a linear fashion, but in a fashion that will give you the result that you want in a shorter space of time than what you can ever, realistically in your mind think, but that is realistically achievable from a practical point of view. Would that be a fair assumption?
That's a fair. It's not an assumption. That's the fair way of looking at it to deliver stakeholder value. When investors are questioning the returns on their investment, right? Historically, a PE investment gathered 7 to 10% return. In the current economic climate, that is being significantly challenged. So, to avoid value erosion on that 7 to 10%, you have to be smart in ways you deliver and deliver them in the shortest possible time. And the butts in the seat model is no longer viable.
Yeah, and if you also think it's, I suppose there's a lot of legacy issues that have come from the way PE funds were established initially in the old KKR days and so on, where this 10-year model was created. I mean, I don't even know if that's still relevant these days, but let's say the 10-year model was created.
The median is 3 to 4. Yeah,
exactly.
And it may even come down, right? There could be several exits that may happen. If I read the leaves right, and the data proves indicates that there could be exits in the sub 3 category,
which is a significant shift, because there's always been this cycle. I mean, maybe many years ago now, but there's always been the cycle. It's a 10-year fund. I've got so many years to build up my momentum, my portfolio, and then I'm going to start exiting, and world is life is great. Now everything is about velocity and getting the exit quick.
Let me put this into the right context, right? The fund may still be 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, right? Depending on investment appetite, right? When I say 3 to 4 years is the fund's investment in a portfolio company, okay, that is getting shorter and shorter, and especially for growth funds. I mean, there are 4 types of funds, but the growth funds, that investment window is getting shorter and shorter. But what we are likely to experience is several exits coming out of buyout funds, and some of these buyout funds may not hold the asset. historically like 3 or 4 years. They could even be exiting them sooner.
Yeah, and maybe just for the sake of the audience, just give us the your view on what the buyout fund means in terms of that sort of dynamic.
Yeah, so the PE funds typically have classified their fundraising or the targets that they deploy the funds into 4 categories. The growth funds are the first category. The growth funds are typically funds that go after technology enabled products or healthcare or health tech oriented products. Historically, so if you say fintech, health tech, insure tech, etc., these are all happening under the growth fund. And each of the big guys, right, whether it's TPG, it's KKR, it's Apollo, all of them have a growth fund. CDNR, I would say, is one of the big ones when it comes to the growth fund, right? Then you have traditional funds, right, that are funds directed towards semi-distressed or distressed companies or companies with low EBITDA margins, and there's an opportunity to turn those companies around for a large multiple. So those funds are directed to what we call the buyout funds, right? So they go buy low, and sell high, right? That's the operating mantra in which they operate. The third category of funds is called the REIT funds, which is real estate investment trusts. Right? These are funds that you hold for a very, very long period of time. You invest in commercial and in recent times residential real estates. Those funds are directed for long periods of holding, but they are directed towards real estate portfolios, and they're almost exclusively directed in the real estate market, right? So a CBRE or a Brookfield, they are the guys that play typically in that fund, or they have asset management organizations that manage that fund. The returns in those are steady, are predictable, based on rental market and commercial market valuations. Okay. The last is called the mezzanine funds. Right? The mezzanine funds are neither in bucket 1, bucket 2, or bucket 3. They are a mix of here and there. So they are opportunistic. They go invest depending on what returns that they could get, and where they're constantly balancing portfolio to ensure that the investors get the return, irrespective whether it's a buyout, it's a growth, or it's a partial buyout, it's a partial growth. So they are, I would almost say, they are opportunistic in how they invest and how they play the market. And there is a significant amount of money also in those funds. But across these 4, there is significant trillions of, I think it's 3.8 trillion of dry powder, investable dry powder available in the market right now for the PEs to go and put. But we'll have to see how the market shapes up in the next 90 days in terms of investment appetite, and more importantly, valuations which are more realistic for the PEs to play. Because for at least in the growth funds, the valuations were insane for a period of time.
Yeah, and hence the amount of dry powder that's been built up, because I think valuations and there's been more and more of a scarcity, I believe, in quality assets to go out and do something with. So there is going to be an accumulation of dry powder, but sometimes the investors might get, let's say, a little panicky unless it's own funds, that you don't mind sitting on them for a little while because they're not earning any money. So you've got this conundrum between, do I go and do something, or do I just sit and wait? And it's at what stage do I enter? What stage do I put portion, and so on. So each private equity firm or each fund has got to make crucial decisions. And what I'm also seeing, and maybe you can confirm this, or maybe come with a different angle, but I'm also seeing a lot of the funds are starting to really niche down and narrow down in terms of where they go. And you spoke about those four broad categories. But even within those categories, they appear to be narrowing down their focus more and more and more and more, down into even sort of niches within niches, if you like, or niches, as the Americans say. But I think if we start looking at that and we say, all right, there's still a lot going to happen. But it's firms like yours, I believe, that when it comes to taking advantage of, and this is for the private equity firms, for taking advantage of opportunities, you need to do that at that velocity that you keep talking about. And you have to be able to do that in a structured way and also with the right kind of technology. Because when you do go in and go in and buy something or acquire or invest in something, it's not always your full amounts of money. Obviously, you got leverage, you got other stakeholders, you got, it just becomes complex. But you need to deliver quick. And I think that speed up, it's like you said, it's non-linear. The traditional model has been questioned. And I mean, I think what you're doing right now is you've actually questioned it, and you've reformatted a model that can now be replicated. I mean, some people call it rinse and repeat, but it can be replicated, but it's replicated in such a way that it still delivers the high speed or high velocity, but with the same quality and with the right kind of team and people around that. That's what I'm hearing from the way you're speaking, Rajib.
That's right, Dudley. And the specialization or the era of super specialization, I believe, will continue. One of the things interesting to learn from the PE world, which is very applicable to the corporates, but they typically tend to have a 5-year lead time. PEs tend to have a 5-year lead time in how they operate, right? A PE typically, when it invests in a company, the first indicator of that interest in that segment is hiring a set of operating advisors, the best of the best in the industry, to guide the fortune of that investment, right? And that calls in for the super specialization that we are talking. And the Ps are extremely careful. They're not just investing, they're investing to ensure that the multiple that they're promising to their investors is achievable, and they do it in an accountable manner by ensuring that they have the right set of people that come in to help them. And typically these, they will not go into an investment without surrounding themselves with that right set of advisors.
I love that. And I want to switch gears. We come into almost the end of the hour, and and I'm like, wow, where did that hour go? Rajib, I want to just switch gears briefly. Just tell us a little bit about what you do outside of work. You're clearly very passionate about what you do and how you do it. And I mean, you're based in the US, but I saw you in London last week, and this week you're in Brussels. You talk about emerging markets. I mean, you're a world traveler. You probably spend a lot of time in airports, traveling, etc., in hotel rooms and so on. Tell us how you balance, work life, if there is such a thing. I know your sport plays a very big role in your life as well. But just give us a flavor. I mean, give us the real person, Rajib, behind the scenes. How do you keep yourself sane?
That's the right way of. Okay. So, as a corporate philosophy, right, we have been investing quite a bit in youth and youth cricket around the world. And youth has two dimensions. It is both men and women. So, if you go to our website, you would find that we are investing quite a bit working with club, counties, franchises around the world, sponsoring as well as encouraging youth participation at various levels of cricket. Now, why did we pick cricket versus why didn't we pick something else, right? In the US specifically, which is one of our big markets, and the game of cricket is seeking diversity, equality, and inclusivity. So that's one of the reasons we picked, instead of picking on another sport where it's overcrowded. We picked on something that's underinvested. So that's one of the reasons. Second, youth as a talent is a big focus to us. So we are going after universities which is actively promoting cricket at the youth level and trying to help them promote the sport, get the right talent, get the right infrastructure in place in order to they can build up, and that becomes a feeder for the talent for the type of work that we do. The third element we are actively promoting, we are promoting not just men's cricket, we are also promoting women's cricket and the youth level. It's very, very underrepresented. I'm pretty humble to announce we just tied up with within America with ICC America to promote the under 19 tournament. I think it's in next month. My team is now working to put all the branding, etc., that will go into promoting that event. So that's what, when we are not, I'm not involved in client work on Monday to Friday. Outside of that, we spend 20-25% of our time enhancing, organizing, working with youth in the cricket field in order to bring that forward. It is interesting. This summer, we have 7 interns from various US universities. 6 of them are actually building an analytics-based cricket product that one of the first clients will be one of the potential cricket franchises across in the world. So we have actively not just talked about it, we are putting money where our mouth is in order to ensure that we back it up by action, and we're trying to bring consulting technology into this field because we find it fascinating to bring that know-how to the world of sport. Right? And if I'm not doing those two, and if I'm not traveling, I do land up spending quite a bit of time looking at numbers. The world of numbers is fascinating. Every day throws out something new. So that's the third aspect, but that's probably 5 to 10%, right, when I'm not doing the other stuff.
I love that. I love that, Rajib. And as we close off, maybe just for the benefit of the audience, if I come back to work to a certain extent, and I say sort of what's your ideal client look like? Who you're looking to speak to, and how do they get hold of you?
Yeah. So thank you, Dudley, for bringing that up. Right. See, clients are valuable, right? We want as many clients as possible, but an ideal client for an organization of LTS's size and reach. And by the way, we have service clients in Japan, we are servicing clients in Switzerland, US, UK, across the world, right? All our engagements tend to be very, very global, and we have teams across the world to service them. Now, having said that, mid-market PE funds is our sweet spot, right? These are clients that are seeking operational execution excellence, and we bring that operational execution excellence from diligence to value capture in the M&A continuum to be able to deliver that to them in a package format that they do not need to become the architect to put that together. So that's the ideal client. Somebody, if you were to talk to Harrison independently and Billy or Ishita or Kapil independently, they will all, in my leadership team, the ELT, they would say that is the ideal client that we are looking to work with. From a persona perspective, the operating partner is the one that typically hires us in these funds, and then we land up working with the management or take interim positions in management to deliver that experience that the PE fund is seeking.
Excellent. And then how do they get hold of you, Rajib? What's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah. Pick up the phone and call us, email us. The website allows you to interact. We are very active and visible on LinkedIn. All right. We make sure that if anybody reaches us, to any of the members of the ELT, which is a 9-member global team, we will respond. We will give you attention, and we will be there, right there, trying to talk to you.
Excellent. Rajib, thank you very much. Thank you so much for joining us today. I really do appreciate your time and your energy, and also just dialing in from Brussels. I know I think your body clock, I don't know how you do American time and then Europe time and mix up meetings and that. I think well done for that. I just want to say thank you very much. Thanks for your time. Thank you for sharing today. Please stay on the line. I just want to say goodbye to the audience, and then we'll have a quick chat afterwards. Let me just say goodbye to the audience.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Rajib, for hosting us and giving us this opportunity. It's a very humbling experience, and I thank the audience for taking the time and listening. If there are any questions, Rajiv@altius.us is my email. Happy to take on. If I can answer anything here, I'll be more than happy to stay a little bit longer and answer any questions.
Love it. Thank you very much, Rajib. Much appreciated. Let me just say goodbye to the audience, and then we'll take it from there. So thank you very much, our audience from 100 Days and Beyond, the podcast that focuses on the professionals, the practitioners, but quality, very, very high quality people like Rajib that have turned what could be just a very average thing that could be, and I think he mentioned as in turn it from a linear sort of consulting arrangement into something exquisite, something really special, and something that can, in my mind, that has been optimized because of the use of things like technology, the right people, the right network or stakeholders and people from the outside to provide a complete solution, and that takes not just the smarts or the brains, but also takes years of cultivating relationships, communicating, and doing projects and learning and building an intellectual property base and building that recipe that can deliver quickly. And I love that concept of velocity, because I think velocity is something key for private equity firms. Thank you very, very much for joining us today on another episode of 100 Days and Beyond. For me, it's the unsung heroes, but for me, wow, I mean, Rajib has demonstrated today that although it's unsung, I can tell you there's a lot of really solid stuff happening there behind the scenes. The guys that bring investors money, and often you may be an investor, or you may know of investors, or if you just think about how the whole world economy turns around, it's through trade and investments and investing in entities, investing in ideas, people, and so on, and making this economy grow and sort of roll out, and also weathering the storms of what's happening right now and what will continue happening, the ups and downs of markets and as they shift. But thanks again for joining us. To the audience, we look forward to you joining us on our next episode of 100 Days and Beyond, the podcast where we focus on mergers and acquisitions, and especially the post-merger or post-acquisition integration work, and the practitioners and those special people that work in that environment, whether you are the receiving end of an acquisition, you're the receiving end of a change that's brought about by either a private equity or an investor, or you are in the driving seat of that. This is the podcast for you. Please continue following us and continue subscribing. Love the comments that have come through. We just don't have the opportunity right today to answer all the questions, but thanks again. Have a super day, and we'll catch you again on the next episode. Thank you, and bye-bye.